So California Democrats want to turn your Second Amendment right into an 8-hour obstacle course that only people with time and money can afford to finish. Now, let that sink in for a second, because this is not about carrying a gun. This is not about concealed carry. This is not about public safety training for people walking around armed. This is about owning a firearm. California Democrats are pushing a bill that would, for the first time, require mandatory state-approved training before you can even buy a gun. Not use it, not carry it, buy it. According to Breitbart, and I'm quoting this directly, California Democrats are pushing legislation to require passage of a state-approved training course, including live fire shooting, to secure the certificate necessary to buy a gun in the state. That is a massive shift, because up until now, California has never required you to complete live training or an 8-hour course just to exercise the basic right of gun ownership. And this is where the hypocrisy jumps off the page. These are the same people who will absolutely lose their minds at the suggestion of an ID requirement or basic civics test to vote. But notice the pattern. They won't even discuss a barrier to voting, but they have no problem erecting barriers to gun ownership. Time barriers, financial barriers, government permission barriers. The bill itself spells it out very clearly, again, verbatim. This bill will require an applicant for a firearm safety certificate on or after July 1st, 2028 to complete a training course no less than 8 hours in length. That, among other things, includes instruction on the firearm safety and handling and live fire shooting exercise on the firing range. Ask yourself who that actually affects. It's not the politically connected. It's not the people with flexible schedules and disposable income. It's the single parent. It's the hourly worker. It's the person working 2 jobs who already lives in a dangerous neighborhood and needs the firearm the most. And just in case you think this is where it stops, the bill adds this little line that should make every gun owner nervous. The bill would authorize the Department of Justice to promulgate regulations and provide additional information for the implementation of this subdivision. That's the part where 8 hours becomes 10, 10 becomes 20, cost goes up, availability goes down. This is how you turn a right into a privilege without ever saying the word ban. And if you think this is about safety, you haven't been paying attention to California long enough, because people who don't want you to own guns should never be trusted to decide what hoops you have to jump through to get one. And once you see that, the rest of the bill becomes painfully obvious. Now, let's deal with the argument I already know some people are making. Well, Colion, let's be honest, there are a lot of stupid people out there. Wouldn't training make things safer? I agree with half of that sentence. There are a lot of stupid people in this world. But here's the part people always forget. Our constitutional rights are not predicated on our intelligence. They never have been. They're not predicated on education. They're not predicated on income. They're not predicated on how responsible the government thinks you are. They exist because the founders understood something we seem to forget every generation. Rights that require permission are not rights. They are privileges. And California has already shown us exactly how it treats gun ownership when left unchecked. They didn't want people carrying guns at all until the Supreme Court forced their hand. They didn't want normal people getting permits. They didn't want concealed carry to exist. Even today, Californians cannot simply walk into a gun store and buy whatever firearm they choose. The state decides which guns are acceptable. So forgive me if I don't trust the same people who fundamentally oppose gun ownership to now act in good faith when they're writing the rules about how you're allowed to own one. Because if your real goal is fewer guns without an outright ban, this is exactly how you do it. You don't ban, you bury. You bury people in requirements. You bury them in costs. You bury them in commitments. And then you point to the paperwork and say, see, you're still allowed to own a gun. Here's what never gets talked about. This does not hurt criminals. Criminals don't care about training requirements. They don't care about certificates. They do not care about live fire fundamentals. They do not care about live fire mandates. If criminals cared about legal gun ownership requirements, they wouldn't be criminals. This hurts one group of people, and one group only. Law-abiding citizens, and more specifically, law-abiding citizens without money, people who can't afford to miss a full workday, people who can't afford course fees, people who can't navigate bureaucratic nonsense just to protect themselves. So what happens? Gun ownership becomes something reserved for the privileged, for people who already live in safer areas, for people who already have time and resources. Meanwhile, the people who live in the most dangerous environments are priced out of their own self-defense. That is not safety. That is a class-based disarmament. And let's be honest, if this was actually about safety, California would make these courses free. They would subsidize them. They would protect workers from being fired for attending. They would make them frictionless. Because if the goal were education, you would want as many people as possible to have that education. But that's not what this is. This is about friction. This is about discouragement. This is about punishment. And it's the same playbook we've seen over and over and over again. They tax guns, they tax ammo, they tax accessories, they tax background checks. And now they want to tax your time. If they can't ban it outright, they'll tax it until it disappears. This is what infringement actually looks like in the modern era. Now, before someone tries to twist this, let me say this clearly. If you own a firearm and you refuse to get training, you're a fool. If you own a firearm and you don't know the laws in your state, you're a liability. Everyone who owns a gun should seek training. Everyone who owns a gun should understand the law. No debate. But that decision should come from responsibility, not coercion. Not government force, not politicians who don't believe in the right in the first place. The Second Amendment is not a suggestion. It is not a privilege. And it's not something the government gets to ration based on who can afford it. And that distinction matters more than people realize. And that actually brings me to today's sponsor. Even though I am completely against mandated training as a requirement to own a firearm, I absolutely believe that if you own or carry a firearm, you should get training. And even more important than that, if you carry a firearm for self-defense, you should have legal protection. And that's why USCCA sponsored today's video. USCCA is one of the most comprehensive programs available for responsible gun owners. They don't just provide training, they provide education on the law in your state and any other state you may travel to. So you actually understand where and how you can legally protect yourself. On top of that, a USCCA membership provides legal and financial protection if you ever have to use your gun in a self-defense situation. They make responsible gun ownership easier. They make understanding the law easier, and they give you peace of mind if the worst case scenario ever happens. That's why they sponsored today's video. If you want to learn more about a USCCA membership, I'm going to put a link in the description section of this video. Training should empower you, not punish you. And that's a difference California refuses to acknowledge.
One thing's for certain and two things are for sure. Politicians and tech giants don't want gun content to be recommended to you. And we're all fighting this culture war together. Now, you can help do your part by liking, commenting, subscribing to the channel, but most importantly, sharing this video with at least one person. Together, we can stop the suppression of our 2A rights. And don't forget to click the link in the description section of this video for the products that I mentioned in this video.